Hello, hello. My name is Jeffrey Palermo, and I'm the Chief Technology Officer of ClearMeasure, and I am so excited to give you a demo of the AI software factory. This is an architectural pattern, and let's get right into it. There's a lot to cover. This webinar is going to be in two pieces. And the first part is uh, giving you an actual demo of what an AI software factory looks like, what it can do for you, and how you can put it to work and how you implement it. And then once that is done, then I'm gonna open up for questions and visiting with you guys, because invariably there's gonna be so many questions that are really about how to put it in place in your organization. And that's what we're here. That's what we're here to do, to help empower software delivery and to help you deliver world-class results through custom software. So let's dive into it. So the AI software factory, this is not a coding tool, but it's an executive level architecture pattern for overseeing and optimizing software delivery. This is about orchestrating how software moves through an organization so that we can systematically increase throughput while keeping the quality high. Um, every organization wants more software delivered faster. The problem is not a lack of ideas or a lack of market demand. The problem is that software delivery has become the constraint. Just the amount of time that it takes, it has become the constraint. And the question from all kinds of business partners and customers is, when is it going to be ready? Is it ready yet? Is it ready yet? The solution that artificial intelligence uh, provides to this is not just a drop-in product. It's a different way of thinking. All right. So I'm going to encourage you to do that today. Most organizations, they try to just go faster, but that really doesn't work. You can't just go faster. Throughput is not something that you can directly command and mandate. It's what remains after defects and instability stop stealing your team's capacity to work. And artificial intelligence can't just automatically do anything, much less give perfect work consistently all the time. Quality and stability are not just nice to haves, they're prerequisites. If defects or production incidents consume your team, there's really no capacity left for throughput to work on delivering features and valuable changes. No matter how much automation that we add, if our team is constantly working on problems, there's just nothing left. And if you have a solution that is not properly engineered, then that unengineered AI uh, implementation, that can really just make delivering defects into production happen quicker. And we don't want that. All right. So let's get back to orchestration. We already accept orchestration patterns in other parts of software delivery. The AI software factory is the next level up. We have continuous integration, which is a build orchestration pattern. We have we have automated deployments, which is a release orchestration pattern. We have Scrum sprints, which is a team delivery orchestration pattern. And now the AI software factory is an end-to-end delivery orchestration pattern. So this is for coordinating the entire life cycle from idea to production value, living in a world where so much of the work and the steps are being done more and more by computers, being done more and more by automation, as opposed to being a completely human workflow. Okay, where we have to literally every step of the way. And so it's a higher order delivery system. It's not a single tool. It's not just AI coding. It is a system that orchestrates people, processes, and automation. And this is critical. The AI software factory is about building an overall system where automation does the repetitive work and engineers focus on engineering. Who would have thought? Okay. All right. So what's in front of you is our AI DevOps architecture poster. This is actually only the top third of that poster. If you would like a high resolution, high resolution digital copy of the entire poster, then you can just look in the chat or just request it from us, and we'd be happy to get it to you. Um, but we've been. Let me paint a vision for what the software delivery group needs to look like and how you need to uh, organize your work to get the outcomes that you want, organize the various activities, and then structure the people and the roles. Um, our industry has gone through a few transformations that have been kind of big. From the 90s, the project management body of knowledge, the PMBOK, kind of ruled how we did software projects. And then starting in 2001, for the next decade, there was the big agile adoption, where we learned as an industry to work in smaller batches and move to single piece flow, the Kanban pattern of a work tracking board where you have columns and you move things from left to right. We got that from that change. Then starting in 2010 and for the next decade onward, we had the DevOps adoption where now we're not arguing anymore whether or not we should let a machine touch production and automatically deploy something to production. Now it's best practice. It's now a considered malpractice to remote directly into production and copy files and poke in configuration settings. And so we had the DevOps adoption. Uh, Overlapped with that a little bit was the cloud adoption. There was the big debate whether we needed to keep our servers and keep our all of our systems in a cabinet in a data center that we could physically walk into and we could unscrew or screw in some additional servers versus letting some of the bigger cloud providers host our applications. And now it's for many cases, it's best practice and it's just not worth having something physically on premise because it's not as flexible. Well, now we have the AI adoption. And we could fast forward, 10 years from now and try to look back on, okay, what's going to be considered normal. And we're in the throes of it. So the debate is ongoing. But one thing is for certain. We have a new, very interesting technology that opens up a ton of new automation possibilities to the work that we do. Okay. This is all about automating more. Now, when we went through the agile adoption, the DevOps adoption, the cloud adoption, and now the AI adoption, it's the same pattern. Some smaller team has to go first and figure it out for your organization, and then show and tell the rest of the company, hey, this is what worked. This is how we did it. These are the patterns that work in our industry, in our situation. And you learn from the one that goes first. And so you're probably here because we're in the industry, we're one of the companies that's going first, that's pushing forward. And we're freely sharing what we're learning, and everybody else is sharing what they're learning. But you fast forward 10 years from now, we're going to look back and and this process, this software delivery life cycle, this process of going from an idea for a software feature or behavior to it actually running in a stable fashion in production, that process, so many steps in that process are going to be fully automated, partially automated, and it's going to look different. But one thing's for certain, we're going to be automating more and we're going to be able to do more, yield higher quality and better software systems. All right. So let's. Oh, before I move on, one of the things that we're offering is a AI DevOps readiness assessment. And if anyone is interested in talking to us about that, about are you ready to adopt AI? Do you have any gaps in your existing DevOps architecture? Um, then let us know because if you have gaps, then AI certainly can help. automate the shipping of bugs to production faster, and we don't want that. Okay, let's get into our first demo. And remember, the AI software factory is our next layer up around coordinating the entire life cycle from idea to production. And so, what we're gonna start with is a Kanban board. We happen to be using GitHub, but that really doesn't matter. You could be using Azure Boards, Jira. It's just a work tracking system. And so let me pull up that. Um, Here it is. Okay. Here's a GitHub project. It's a work tracking board. I've got some items in this first column, and then we have our UX design. We have technical design, test design, then our development column, and then functional testing, user experience testing, a release queue, and then done. In short, it's a pretty standard board where you have your coding, you have your development column in the middle, and then to the left of your development column, you have a few types of design where you make decisions, and then to the right of your development column, you have some statuses where you are testing the implementation of the design decisions that you made at the beginning. Okay. So, um, so we want to use this for demonstration. Just for context, we have a we have a application that's running in Azure that is a work order management system, and it's kind of what it looks like, themed in the First Church of Springfield navigation. I'm not gonna go into that, but there is an application there. Okay, and we're servicing it. Okay, so uh, we are going to move some of these items across the board. Let me pick one of these, and you can see that we have the concept to add a navigation height button. Let me just give you a quick demo. I'm not going to talk too much. I'm going to change the label, and I am going to mark it for the AI software factory. We're going to live dangerously, and we're going to auto merge the pull request, and then say, okay, this sucker's ready to move. All right, so I'm just gonna mark that one, and kind of let it go. And the system will pick it up. There it is. It automatically moved it over, and it's starting to work on it. Okay. And as we go in here, we can look at it, but what we've already seen is a comment where the cursor has been matched for work item 6405 in this status, and the agent session has been created. So it hasn't done anything yet, but if I click on it, we happen to be using cursor for this demo as well as Copilot agent, and we can see that it's already dispatched a cloud session, and there's a prompt. Don't have enough time to go into what's in that prompt, but it started to work on it, and you can see there's code files, and basically there's a session there. All right. So as it's working, it's just going to narrate what it's doing in comments, and it's going to work on it. All right, let's let that go. And let's talk about another concept where, we're doing a lot of things manually, but wouldn't it be nice if our application had had a problem, and it yeah. So here's our health check. What if our application being less than healthy? We need to do something about it. But a lot of time, and by the way, I'm gonna poke something off to the side, and I'm actually going to cause a problem for the application. I'm gonna come over here to the health check and refresh. And okay, so now we see that the status is unhealthy. Well, what do we normally have to do? What's in the logs and the telemetry? And for this unhealthy situation, oh look, our message is memory is corrupted, restart the process. How many different application processes have you had in your career where something happened in production and we haven't quite figured out when it happens? It happens sporadically, but restarting the process or bumping something, and we're fine again for another 6 weeks to 3 months. You've all had it. Okay. So for those types of situations where there's a fix, it doesn't require a code change. You just need to bump something about the process. Well, why can't we just totally automate that in a auditable way. And so we have the detail. We would have to manually go and look at this and then look at some logs and then do it. Well, you see this production incident over in our Kanban board. We automatically detected that there was an issue and it's popped up on the board, and we pulled the information, and we can see that memory is corrupted, restart the process. And so what this did is looked at the health checks, and if there was any message that was ripe for automation. In other words, it was in our knowledge base. We'd seen it before. Then when we create the production incident, we automatically label it for the AI factory, and then the automation gets working on it. And so again, because we're using Cursor for this, we have the Cursor session. We can go and look at what it's doing, and it actually already finished. And so what happened over here is it narrated what it did. Here's the finishing of the remediation. And if we actually go back to the application and hit refresh again, then okay, there we go. We are now healthy again. The process memory is healthy. And now if we go to the application homepage, it loads up and it loads up and works just fine. Okay. So menu, home, there we go. Cool. So I'll leave it on the healthy detail page. Okay, let me close this out. And while we were at it, it was finished and it was moved over to done. So that is everybody has something where a production incident happens in production and we can automate it all the way through. And we happen in Cursor and Copilot, all the tools have APIs where you can just dispatch a session. And something really interesting about Cursor, you see over here, it took 1 minute, but notice there were 0 output tokens for Cursor. And so when I go to my usage, because there were 0 output tokens, because it didn't actually have to code something and submit code, it's actually a $0 session in Cursor, because a lot of these tools charge for input tokens and output tokens. But the only thing this had to do is do a couple of tool calls. So sometimes you can get really affordable with the AI tools if the resolution of your prompt, all you needed to do is do some AI tooling back and forth as opposed to generating code. All right. So that's just a little tidbit. So let's come back over here and add the navigation hide button. And we can see that in the meantime, we have gained some user experience design. And while I'm talking about this, I'm just going to unblock all of the other ones in the background. Okay, let me talk about this. User experience design. So all we gave it was add a hamburger navigation button, top left, and then it'll toggle the left and give us some information, and then mark it with a label for AI Factory. If I don't mark it with this label, then it's just a regular work item and we work it as normal. And so what happened is the AI tool under the covers, we dispatched it to it, and the code was inspected. And because it was a very simple concept, we were pretty much able to figure out what needed to be done from a user experience design. We were able to derive that from the application code. So we can see that there was a Cursor session that was dispatched, UX design was complete, and we have the workflow summary. The work item body was updated, and the label was applied, ready to move. And now we're in the technical design phase. Okay, so that's going on, and you can see the behind the scenes, the AI software factory can move items from column to column. It can dispatch the work of a particular column to your AI tool of choice. I'm demonstrating Cursor. It can look at your production monitoring and discern whether a production incident needs to be created, and it can put it on your board. If you want to use the same board or a separate board, that's fine. And so I wanted to highlight those pieces. All right, let's go back. I'm just going to leave this running. It's kind of working on these things and moving them across the board. Let me go back to PowerPoint. Fantastic. And let's just keep on going. Okay. And by the way, if there are any questions, just use the Q&A window, and at the end I'll um, make sure to get them. All right. All right. Core capabilities of the AI software factory. All right. Um, there are a few things that this pattern provides. First, it provides clarity, which is end-to-end visibility of the whole process and what's going on and what the work is. And that's what a Kanban board should give you. But more than just a Kanban board, it gives you end-to-end visibility. And I'm going to show you that in the next demo. It also gives you the ability to change and improve the workflow and the ability to forecast. Okay. It's one thing to automate a few tasks. I mean, there's so many tools, GitHub Actions, the automation in Azure DevOps, and there's so many ways to use duct tape and baling wire just to, trigger certain things, but you need an overall orchestrator so that you can see what's going on and have the ability to forecast. And so everything that follows in this next demo hinges on these capabilities. Without visibility, we're guessing as to what's going on. We're guessing, when are we going to be finished? How fast are we going? How much work do we have left? Are we going to be on time? And do we need to change the workflow? Without the ability to change the workflow, visibility doesn't matter. So those two things, see what's going on and the ability to change. And when you decide to change, it's because you want to alter how fast you're going, what the quality is, what the stability is, things like that. And so um, it's important that we start with end-to-end visibility, from idea to analysis, design, programming, testing, deployment, production validation, support and maintenance, production incidents, every status, every handoff. Most teams only see fragments of the whole process. Product management may focus on the front end of the process. Development teams kind of sit in the middle and push out new code builds, and then ops and customer support focus on the live site. The AI software factory approach treats software delivery as a single system with multiple stations of work, just like a physical factory, building something, or building, fire trucks, whatnot. Each station of work has a named status with a certain type of work that has to be done in order for it to move forward. And when we find that we can't move forward because we missed something, then the work moves backwards. The Kanban board is great pattern and it's central here, but this work tracking board has to be comprehensive with the entire workflow. If you can't see it, you can't manage it. Um, we need bottleneck identification. We need root cause analysis. We need meaningful automation decisions. Executives, you don't run finance without financial statements or weekly cash flow forecasts and budgeting. Running software delivery without that kind of visibility, it's the same mistake. But because none of the commercial tools do this automatically, we have to put in place this visibility intentionally. And finally, forecasting into the future releases and future projects, um, that allows us to oversee what's going on and fine tune and make adjustments. And so, using the same manner of measuring our actuals and then tuning our process, we can project into the future, either assuming that things won't change or forecasting what would happen if we did change one of our metrics. And so that brings us to our second demo. And uh, what we're going to show is end-to-end visibility and the measurement. This gives us the ability to change and improve the workflow. And let's jump into it. So let me see here. Let's go to this here. Okay. Okay, here we have a scorecard simulator, but just so you know that I'm pressing some buttons in the background. Basically, with this Kanban board, and see some of the things are a lot of it's already done. With this, we are going to simulate having 10 developers and I know that a lot of teams out there that have 5 or 4 or whatnot. The hours they work per day, how many days we're going to simulate. Uh, on average, 30% of things have a defect, around 3 production issues per week. We have product management. Let's do one product manager who's generating 3 simple requests per day and 1 complex request per week, which is zero point 0.2. And when I say complex, you always have these things that are really big. When you start digging into them, you realize, oh shoot, 10, there's like 10 changes baked into this one change. We need to split it up. That's just how it goes. So a complex request ends up getting split into 10. We could change that, but I'm going to have it at 10. And then the number of minutes that the appropriate person spends per column, conceptual definition, the product manager is going to spend 200 and 200 in UX design per work item. And so we just have a baseline configuration. Not going to go too much into it, but it just allows me to simulate this. And so I'm gonna hit start, and at the bottom, a scorecard is popping up per week. And of course, I mean, you could do per minute if you want to. It's just we're just splitting it, but we are basically fast forwarding 2 months of a project in fast forward. And behind the scenes, I've created a bunch of agent workers who are actually doing things. And so with this structure of team, what we're looking at the 4 week rolling average of throughput and mean time to delivery. That is on average for a particular item when it shows up on the board and gets into the first active status. How many weeks does it typically, on average, take us to deliver it? Okay, so we should be finishing with the generation pretty soon, and it looks like we're leveling out somewhere in the 11, 12 range. And okay, now we're done. So 11.5, let's just call it 12, throughput of 12 on average, 12 per week, and mean time to delivery over the last 4 weeks was 2.69. That means when an item popped on the board, it took 2.69 weeks to deliver. Now, as someone overseeing a software project, you have to have this type of visibility. And I know you could say, well, wait a minute. One item might be just fixing a spelling bug, and another thing might be some hairy, uh, really difficult item. Yes, that's true. But the really big things, you tend to break up into small items. And then you have the law of large numbers. When you put a lot together, the averages end up being pretty reliable. And if you want to test your averages, you could even change to, rolling periods 8. And so over the last 8 weeks, okay, 14 throughput and mean time to delivery 2. So you could look at the different rolling periods, but let's just go with the law of large numbers because it really does. Just like managing expenses, some expenses are small, some expenses are big, but when you put them all together, you tend to have some trends that emerge. And if you look at the mean time to delivery across all these number of weeks, if you have a project plan that calls for mean time to delivery of 1 business day, and you've never had a point 0.2 on mean time to delivery in the entire project's history, then that's not a very good plan. And if your plan has 150 items, and you've never had a week that went over 18 items delivered per week, then you can test it against your plan. And so same thing with defects. Defects are things that escape out to production and they land on the board. They are new work. You thought something was done, but we were mistaken. Now it's a defect. I got to do some rework. And if a defect moves forward on the board but moves backwards, well, it might generate some additional rework as well. Defect resolved. That's how many per week got resolved. When a defect lands on the board, right now it's 2 business days or zero point 0.4 weeks it takes to resolve it. Same thing with production issues. We need to have these numbers. When a production issue drops on the board, how long does it typically take to resolve it? In this case, it takes 2 business days, which is 0.4 weeks. We need to know those numbers. Now, this is measuring your past. Every project, you need to know what your project is actually doing. How many items, how much new work drops into the project queue every week? It do we discover new work or is it not? That's you need to know that. So let's go back to our generation. We're going to change to forecast mode. Let's forecast into the future. Now, if we don't change anything, then we know what we're going to get. We know average throughput 11.5. We know 2.69 mean time delivery, our escape defects. We know our general trends. And so let's make some change. Let's make some changes. Let's use AI, fill our testing gaps, and let's work on fewer defects to production by upping our testing game, by generating some really meaningful tests that we've been letting languish. And let's really, cut our escape defects in half because of that. That's also going to help our production issues. No, you have to actually do that, but just know as an executive overseeing a software project, you want to say, you know what, let's challenge the team. We have 3 production issues per week. What can we do to cut down to one production issue per week, and actually put some improvements in place? Then with AI automation, let's conceptual definition, well, we can leave that there, but UX design, a lot of that we can automate, half of that. Just put this, somewhere. Test design development, that's the biggest one. Functional testing, we can automate. UX testing, maybe a little bit less. We want to put eyeballs on it. And then release queue, getting it to production, that's a high automation target right there. And so if we just add some automation in there, and then we're on forecasting mode. Let's start forecasting mode, and I'm going to switch over to a dedicated scorecard view that's going here. I'm going to make sure to group by week, and so we have our green column, which is the present week, which is May the 4th. Okay. And today's May the 5th. So we start there. Okay, we're forecasting into the future. And so our throughput was 11.5. Mean time delivery was 2.6 weeks. So already our 4 period or 4 week average is better than 11.5. Our mean time delivery has dropped considerably. And so we're getting a faster turnaround time. We're getting 1 business day turnaround time, and our throughput is up significantly. And so we can see by reducing defects, reducing production incidents, and finding ways to add AI automation that these numbers improve. Without knowing your starting numbers, you do a process change, you introduce an AI tool, you automate a few steps of the process. You're thinking that you're going to improve things, but you can't prove it. You can't report it. So you have to have this type of system. Okay, quality, we can see that quality went down. Sorry, quality defects escaped went down, quality went up. But when a bug did come, well, it took less than a business day to resolve it. When a production issue came up, it took, what is that, uh, maybe 5 hours, 5 business hours to resolve it. So that's pretty good. You need to know these numbers. All right, now let me switch off of the. Oh, by the way, there are also some scorecard insights. There's some data anomaly rules. Like if we have some stuck items or a zombie item, and I know this is just a simulation, you want to have some quick things like a column imbalance, or I know there's big numbers because I generated a whole bunch of work. Zombie items are things that really haven't moved in a long time. Okay, so you want to have some rules that kind of um, help you out to know what to look at. Um, but if defect escape, if you want to click on one of these, you can see escape defect. Now these are just simulated numbers. What about a real project? Let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to actually have this running locally. So if I stop, and this is a Blazor server UI, but if I stop it, I'm running it from Visual Studio, and it was running against the bootcamp training class application in GitHub, and this was the configuration. Here's the environment. Here's the GitHub repository. Here was the environment that we were looking at. Here's how to check the health. We had We had a cursor enabled for this one. We had the Copilot agent not enabled. And by the way, I didn't show it to you, but this production incident prompt, it's right here. And so whatever the appropriate prompt for that step, that's not magic, but you just have to put in your prompts. I'm going to go to an actual client, a real client project that we have permission to show, which is called ShowWorks Cloud, and it ran from 2020 to 2022. And I'm actually going to start that up, and let me get that going real quick. I need to pop this open, move it. Bear with me just for a second. And almost have it going. Okay, here we go. So this is the screen. And by the way, just so you know, this is a real project that happened to be using Azure DevOps, so not GitHub. And this is the work tracking. Let's see the board. Now, this project stopped, and like a lot of projects that get put on ice, there's lots of ideas that end up getting put on the board, but then it's like, okay, let's put this on ice and let's just run it. And so the project, you had a lot of that happens. Okay, you have some that are bugs marked with tags. So this project, it has no activity for well, since late 2002, really, no meaningful activity. I'm going to clear all the test data that we have in here. And so we have no scorecard here. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a custom range. And I'm just going to go back to 2020. And I'm going to pull actual data from Azure DevOps so we can analyze it. So I was simulating it before, but this is a real client project, and it's going to pull the real work items and the real history of the work items. So you see that it's getting real work items that have a revision is a change. All these work tracking systems save every snapshot of every work item, a state change, a field change. All the history is stored. And so we're just calling the API, and we're calling and pulling down the history, and then we can build our scorecard and get a lot of intelligence from that process. And and so I've showed you that we have our actual client board. We're going to use that and come back to it. But as we as we look here, I'm going to go back to Visual Studio. Again, this is not a product. It's a code sample. We help our clients with this. So if any of you are clients or becoming clients, then you'll get this. And if we look in the configuration, then we can see that, okay, here's our Azure DevOps configuration. This is where we're storing our data, and it's pretty simple because we're only for this one we only activated the scorecard module because we just needed to pull a scorecard. All right, so let's go. Harvest complete. Over 4,000 revisions. Fantastic. So let's look at what happened with this project. I'm going to change it from day to I'm going to change it from month so I can get the month view. All right, and this is not going to be useful because it's looking after 2026. Okay. So if we go back to the heyday of this project when it started up, we started it up, and you can see zero escape defects for the first few months. Well, new project, and then we started getting a few, and then we can see the new work that got put on the backlog, the throughput, the mean time delivery, the work in process, and this shows that this project had a bad habit of leaving a lot of work items scattered on the work tracking board that were just zombie items. Because you look at work in process, a lot of those they're just the same ones. And so if we go down to aging backlog, well, guess what? It tells us the truth. These have been in conceptual definition for 43 months, and these are just sitting there. They're work in process, but we're not moving them. We're not working on them. And click on that, stand up the build server. We can see the timeline of when it got put there, and still at the end of June of 2020, It was, maybe we moved it forward, did a little bit of design, and then moved it backward. So we can see the truth. And what's important is that you see the truth of what's happening. Okay. Now, another interesting thing is if you have a question of, oh, escape defects. Well, what defects escaped? Well, click on there and we can look at the different defects and video portion over the bottom banner, really? And I can click on that, it'll go straight to the work tracking system so I can just see what's going on. Okay, oh, that was a bug because we had a little bit of CSS overlap with the video pane on the right-hand side. This happened to be a youth fair livestock auction, and so when no one was meeting in person in 2020, we partnered with a client and we built an online virtual auction for FFA and 4-H groups, and so there it is. So if we go back, we can look at that. All right, let's dive into something like new work. Okay, 4 items popped up. Well, what popped up? Well, the mobile view, pagination, buy now. If we look at production issues, we can see that this project did not store any production issues in Azure boards. Production issues with another system, and we don't have it hooked up here. Now we can and we need to because we need that telemetry. So that's really interesting. If I go down to the anomalies as well, if I go to uh, defect defect churn, here are items where they went forward, they went backwards, and or they had some repeated opens. So if I click on one of them, I can see the history of what happened. And guess what? From May 13th to June 1st, we have not been able to resolve this. It's gone forward, it's done something, it's gone backwards, and we've had some issues with it. So when you're overseeing, you don't want these kinds of facts to just be hidden. You want them to pop out, you want them to be visible. And of course, we can open it in the work tracking system, which is Azure Boards, and we can see, everything about it, and we can see, oh shoot, we have a problem even with the integration build on this one, and we broke the build and all that. So, whatever the truth is, if we have a problem, then that needs to be visible. And so this is a pattern that the scorecard module in AI Software Factory is about visibility, seeing what's actually going on. And then if we want to change what's actually going on, then we can introduce AI automation. We can increase our testing assets to get our quality numbers higher, etc. All right, let's jump back on. So back in PowerPoint, I want to make sure that we didn't. Yeah, we skipped a slide. Okay, fantastic. All right, so I hope it is obvious at this point that AI is not actually the first step of the AI software factory. The first step is orchestration of the whole process. You need a complete observable workflow before the automation can help. We need the throughput trends, the quality trends, stability trends. We need to be able to review that weekly or daily. The scorecard of the AI software factory becomes the executive dashboard for software delivery. It tells you whether the changes that we make, whether the enhanced automation with AI and the introduction of AI in a particular task has made a difference, has actually improved the outcomes. And it's going to help us identify bottlenecks and process gaps, so we can answer the questions: where does work wait? Where does it pile up? Is our constraint process, architecture, or maybe team skills? And for many of you, this might seem like, curriculum from an MBA class. Well, guess what? It is. This is process improvement. It's workflow optimization. Bottlenecks are rarely where we expect them to be, and the data almost always reveals some type of surprise, and that's where real improvement starts. And so, once we have the visibility, okay, now we get to the AI. But without the structure of the software factory orchestration, the AI implementation is going to be manual, it's going to be haphazard, it's going to have a lot of guessing, and it's only going to make faster the things that we already do. And if the things that we already do are shipping too many defects to our customers or allowing too many production incidents, then we're just going to get more of that. The question is not, can AI do, quote, this? The question is this type of work stable and predictable enough to automate safely? And by analyzing the work at every stage in our process, we can identify the segment of that work that is suitable next for AI automation. The AI tools, they provide a wealth of automation possibilities, and it's only getting better. And the AI software factory gives us a pattern where we can plug them in where we think that they will fit, and then we can measure the results to know that we were right, that it did fit in well there, and it did actually improve us, improve our overall organizational results. The more work and the parts of the work that we automate through AI, the more of our team's capacity that we reserve for the work that truly requires business analysis, truly requires engineering, and requires the higher order types of creativity that cannot come from a machine. It has to come from us. It has to come from actual intelligence, not artificial intelligence. Okay. And so we take the easy stuff, the repetitive stuff, and we send that to the pattern matching algorithm of artificial intelligence. And then we get our scorecard, and so we can see we actually improved. The quality actually went higher and remained high, and stability went higher and remained higher. And so automation is not inherently good or bad, it's a hypothesis. And if it doesn't improve on the scorecard, then it's not helping, no matter how impressive it technically may look. And so, uh, and so the easy path is what we need to start with. Fully automate the simple paths. Find those small and bounded changes. Find the ones that have no architectural impact. Find the ones that have minimal, where minimal analysis is required, and let's get those easy wins. These are the changes that only require some programming. That they don't require any engineering, just some programming. And this is where you can achieve a near 100% unattended flow. Delegate the entirety of that to the machine, because it's the easy stuff. Anybody on your team could do it with one hand, with one half of your brain tied behind your back, but somebody has to do it. Oh, well, maybe we could delegate it to the machine. Let the machine do it. All right. And so if there's a field, a single field on one screen that just needs some change. There's no new infrastructure, there's no new patterns, there's a low blast radius, it's really low risk. Start with those types of things. These changes, if we don't without automation, these changes still consume real team capacity today, but the AI software factory removes the load entirely, and then you can see it reflected through the metrics that you're capturing on the scorecard. And so as you go through this, you're going to want to climb the maturity curve. Wherever you're starting from, you want to get better and better. And your smart engineers on the team are going to design new capabilities, and that design is going to yield future automatable work. And then the automatable work that's done by machines, and the team members can focus more on higher level work that requires more creativity, because the capacity of the team is reserved for that more important work. And this is where the leverage compounds and grows. Engineers build the factory in a way that creates more automation opportunities over time. All right. So that's really, really important. And then as you go through this, then you're gonna want to make sure that you have the prerequisites so that you're ready, because AI amplifies the system that you already have, including if there's anything wrong with the system. So you want fast continuous integration. You want strong automated testing. You want automated deployments. You want observability and telemetry so that you know what's going on in every deployed environment. You want alerts and health checks and other production stability assets. Remember, AI actually accelerates everything, including failure. And without these fundamentals, without this rock solid foundation, automation is just going to deliver bugs faster, which is not what you want. And so you want to make sure that you are prepared to introduce this AI software factory pattern so that you can uh, gain the benefits instead of just introducing chaos. And so again, this is about empowerment, not tools. It's about visibility so that you can oversee the software project and steer it properly. Your metrics are going to enable decision making. The automation becomes intentional and more scientific. The hypothesis, experiment, verification, that's very intentional. And so this really is software leadership infrastructure. It gives software leaders real control over software delivery outcomes without the guesswork, the without having to guess. And so, what's ClearMeasure's role? Well, our role is to empower you for world-class software delivery. That's what we do. Three things. We do build a ton of software systems. If you need help building something or fixing a situation that's not where you want it to be, and advising and guiding. And so all of those are empowering software delivery. And regardless of how much or how little help you need from us, what we always want to make sure is that your organization is more empowered than when we started. And we will help you along the journey as much or as little as you like. We want your software organization to be continuously getting better and better and better. ClearMeasure doesn't sell AI tools, by the way. We implement them. We implement the best of breed of all kinds of tools, including the AI tools. We've done a massive Cursor implementation over the last year. We've helped clients with Copilot, with Cursor and Claude, and with even open source tools. We implement them. We implement automation, everything necessary to deliver world-class software and help organizations build software delivery systems that can safely exploit AI without destabilizing their business. So, um, that is our AI Software Factory demo. We are scheduling one-on-one AI strategy sessions, and so we can get one on the calendar with you and your team, or however you'd like to do it. The organizations that win are not going to be the ones that code faster or even overspend on AI tokens. They'll orchestrate better, and they'll do it intentionally, measurably, and safely. And so as I answer questions, I'll just put this QR code so you can request a one-on-one or a small group AI strategy session so that we can help you with the next steps. Okay. So at this point, we'll transition from the demo. I told you at the beginning that we're gonna do the demo and then open it up for anyone that wants to discuss, whether it be with a group question or even with a one-on-one visit immediately afterward. We have plenty of flexibility on time if that needs to be something. So the Q&A window is open if anybody wants to ask any questions, and then you can also use the chat with Kaylee, and we can reserve a slot immediately after this later on today, whatever you'd like to talk AI strategy. Okay, first question that we have is what AI tools does this work with? All right. I said this is not a product. I showed you a bunch of stuff, but this is not a product. This is a pattern. And so all of our clients, get the sample code and libraries that we have here, because yeah, there is code, but it's not complicated code. It's about the process. So all of the tools that have APIs to create a prompt session, that's the compatibility. So Cursor, yes, Cursor works great with it. Copilot works for the coding tasks because the Copilot hosted in GitHub is really hard coded towards the coding tasks. But then there's also Copilot SDK that will run on a server of your choosing for any kind of prompt. And so there's compatibility there. And so you can have a prompt for any column in the overall process, and you can have it do something, call tools, you can have it enhance, you can have it do research, and then of course for development, you can have it generate code and tests and run builds and do debugging. Another scenario, another low hanging fruit scenario is when there is a bug that pops up that someone has reported, and it's a bug that's escaped out into production. And well, guess what? The first step of any kind of bug diagnosis is to reproduce the bug. That takes a lot of time. Okay. Well, that's right for automation because the first step for reproducing the bug is gathering all the telemetry, all the logs, everything that we can, all the context that we can gather. What customer did it happen for? How was that account or customer record set up? What was the environment? Everything, just pulling all that together and adding it into the actual defect work item, however you have it situated, whatever system that you use, so that we can start with reproducing it. Okay. Also, the your AI software factory can proactively delegate to a an AI tool, but more and more tools are coming out, kind of like a GitHub Copilot with the squad skill, where you have kind of like a virtual different personas where it's configured through GitHub Actions to watch for a particular status and then handle work that comes through a particular column. There's more and more tools that are having more and more automation built in where you can have a combination of your AI software factory pushing a prompt to a tool or configuring a tool running somewhere to just watch a particular column and automatically do some stuff. But either way, you want the orchestration of the AI software factory to know what's going on and pull out information about it so that you can so that you can have full visibility into what's going on. Okay. Here's another question. Uh, are you able to provide a sample scorecard for my software project? Yes, yes, actually, we do plenty of that. If you just want us to get to if you want to give us a read-only, we'll work with you, a read-only token to your work tracking system. We don't want edit access, but just read-only for a temporary time. We'd be more than happy to just call the APIs and provide you with what your current numbers are. Pulling it for the last 6 months is easy, and then providing you a weekly scorecard. We more than happy to do that. Just get with Kaylee in the chat or use the QR code, and let's follow up and let's get that on the board, and we'd be happy to do that for you. Okay, I think I answered the various questions. If there are no more questions, it looks like we are getting some requests for one-on-one AI strategy sessions. Fantastic. We'll get those going a little bit later this afternoon. Looks like I'll be going into one pretty soon. Fantastic. Fantastic. Love it. All right. If you do want to do a screenshot and just save that QR code or the URL, you can get with your team and then we can have a chat. Our goal is that you run a software team that delivers world-class custom software. That's what I want from you. So thank you all. This is great. I love doing this, and have a fantastic day. God bless.